All right, this is part one of database testing, and in this video, I will give you an overview, and I will also talk about what we are going to test. And in the next video, we will actually write the code. So what is the big picture? What are we trying to do? On the left-hand side, we have a scenario, and on the right-hand side, we have a relational database. Now, somehow we want to define some query here in our scenario and execute it against this database and then get the response back and do some validations, right? So in other words, we want this bi-directional relationship between our scenario and the database. But the problem is that ZeroCode framework doesn't allow to execute queries directly from scenarios. So you cannot define queries here that will be directly executed in a database. To solve this problem, we will use a method which plays a middleman, role of a middleman, and we will pass some parameters to this method, and here we construct our SQL query according to our business logic, of course, and we will execute that SQL query against the database. We will get some response back. We will forward this response, and here we will do some validations. So this is a typical structure how you would do database testing using ZeroCode. So let me go to the Swagger page. I added this new endpoint that we are gonna use, which is API users by book. And you can understand from the name, executing this endpoint helps us to buy the book for the specific user. So we specify the user ID and the book ID, and which means that we are buying a book, this book, for this user. Let me quickly switch to our database. So on each startup of our application, these users are created. These are just predefined users, okay? And it also creates these ebooks, which is, I have two ebooks. And we want to buy the book, let's say for user Tom, and the ID is 1. And for the ebook, not this one, ebook, let's say buy the book with ID 1, which is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So we want to invoke this endpoint with user ID 1, who is Tom, and book ID 1, which is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Okay, but before we invoke this endpoint, we need to log in since our endpoints are secured by JWT. So let me try it out. And again, the username is JWT and the password is also JWT. Click execute, which returns us the bearer token. And this is very familiar if you watched REST API testing in the section 1. So let me click authorize here. Now we can execute our endpoint. So let's specify user ID 1, who is Tom, and the book is 1, ID is 1. Let's click execute. And as you can see, the code was 200 and it told us that operation ended successfully. So now if I get the users with this endpoint, you will see that the Tom has this book, right? Because we bought this book for him just right now. And if I go to the database, so far we already discussed this ebook and user, but there is another table called user books. And as you might guess, this user book table just records the relationship between the users and books, which user has what books. And when we bought the book for Tom, it recorded this relationship. The thing is that the data from this user books table is not directly exposed through REST API. We don't have any endpoint here which gets the data from user books. So in this case, when data is not directly exposed through some API, it is very good to do database testing. And that's exactly what we plan to do. In the next video, we will buy the book for the same user, and we will check that the data is populated in these user books. Okay, this was all for now. I'll see you in the next one.